Let's bring in Cliff May. He's the founder and president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Cliff, welcome. Thanks for coming in. So let's look big picture for a second. What's the president thinking here in terms of really getting so close to the Saudi kingdom?
Well, I think there are a number of things that the U.S. can get out of it. One you heard is the investment, $1 trillion. That's quite a lot. We'll see if that much can come in. But I think we also saw that that the Saudi Crown Prince is now willing to be on a path to join the Abraham Accords. And if the Saudis were to join, that would be the jewel in the crown of the Abraham Accords for sure. Now, the F-35s are a little trickier. I don't think we saw behind the scenes what's going on there. The Defense Intelligence Agency had a report saying, you know, if you give F-35s to the Saudis while they have a security agreement with Beijing, that endangers that technology. So what I'm suggesting is that behind the scenes, Trump said, you understand, if I'm going to give you F-35s, you can't be going out on dates with Xi Jinping anymore. You and I are going steady. And if you had the Abraham Accords and F-35s in Saudi Arabia and in Israel, you begin to have a Middle East defense architecture against the Islamic Republic of Iran that the U.S. wouldn't have to do much about because it set up its allies to do the heavy lifting.
So the Saudis had military exercises with China as recently as October. So that's obviously got to change. But I want to ask you about how Israel feels about this, because I think it's American law that says if we're going to give the Saudis F-35s, the administration has to stipulate that Israel still has the military advantage there.
Yes, you're right, Paul. And what the president says is, don't worry, I'll make the Israelis happy. There are various ways I can make sure to protect the qualitative military edge that Israel is meant to have under law. I don't think the Israelis are happy about this, but there are workarounds. The Israelis are famous for having kind of MacGyvered the F-35s, adding new technology that extends range and produces other benefits. Technological adds that the U.S. has said, tell us how you did that. That's really good, and we need to know it too. Those improvements don't need to go on the F-35s that the Saudis get, which they won't get right away. I mean, it's not like you go to Lockheed and say, give me the keys, I'll drive it off the lot. It's going to take a few years, and at that point you may have the Abraham Accords. The Israelis are also combat trained. They know what they're doing. They're going to have more F-35s. Again, they're not happy, but I think Trump is right to say we can keep them satisfied and we can make this work out.
Well, let me ask you about the Abraham Accords. You mentioned them, and of course there's been suggestions that the Saudis are willing to come around here, but MBS said that, look, we want at least a pathway to a two-state solution between Israel and the Palestinians. Right now, that doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. So are we really talking here about a very long timeline? Or could it just happen that we just need a kind of pro forma, here's the path, but it might take a while?
Well, I think what's important, Paul, is that he said a path to a two-state solution. He didn't say, the French, the British, the Canadians, the Australians are all saying, oh, we recognize a Palestinian state, even though it doesn't exist. It has no leader. It has no borders. It doesn't have a policy, nothing. He's saying a path. Paths can be long. Paths can be winding. Paths can have bumps in the road, all sorts of things. I think if you think about it, he was saying this can happen. I want to know that it might happen. But I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. And I understand, I want to be fair about this to the Saudi Crown Prince. For him to go into the Abraham Accords now, while things are so unsettled in Gaza, I can see where he could say, I just can't do that at this point. But by him saying a path, that's not so hard for the Israelis or anybody else to swallow.
And of course, the Crown Prince is a modernizer. He's moving fast. And as we know in history, when you're modernizing, sometimes you can have some bumpy domestic blowback. And so he's got a problem even at home recognizing Israel, does he not?
Absolutely, he does. He has a conservative population. Look, he is a modernizer. He is a reformer. He is not a democratizer, but he does want to maintain his popularity. I think he has popularity. I've seen that on visits there, particularly among the young. So I think he has political considerations. He is not the kind of dictator that says, I don't care what people think, they'll like it or they'll lump it. That's not who he is.
All right, Cliff May, thanks so much for coming in.